Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Geig, and welcome to this Fireside Chat. Today, I'm joined by Bennie Terry III, Executive Producer at Oddworld Inhabitants. How you doing today, Bennie?
Doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. So glad to have you. And today, we're talking about Oddworld Soulstorm. Can you tell us a little bit about that title?
Absolutely. Soulstorm is an action platformer game. It's in a grand scale and epic setting where Abe, our hero, his goal is to try and escort and save as many of his followers as possible by escaping all of the danger and hazards that present along the way. And so, it's a hard game. It's not something that I would say is, easy where we handhold you through it, but it's definitely a challenging experience, but one that's worth it in the end.
Awesome. And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been an executive producer at Oddworld for about 5 or 6 years, but historically, I consider myself technically savvy in that I've been a pipeline TD. Production has been a natural evolution of taking the knowledge of development that I've learned over the years and being able to apply it directly to production and methodologies, as well as just being able to help and assist the team with understanding what they're going through on a day-to-day basis.
Oh, nice. Excellent. Excellent. So I think one of the key elements of this story here is that you guys are really targeting, this next gen hardware, launching on the PlayStation 5. And when did you first decide, that, hey, this is going to be a next gen title?
As soon as possible. I mean, we initially focused on just what is the vision and how grand does it need to be in order to cut through. And so before we considered which platform specifically, we were more targeting how do we tell this epic story in a way that visually is compelling, and what's that bar, right? And we hit that on PC first, but then ultimately when PS5 came along, we were chomping at the bit to get on there as quickly as possible. So the very first prototype kits, and we have great relationships at Sony. I was pinging everyone as well as the team. We were reaching out to see what we could get and when we could get it. And the moment we did, what we found that was, really compelling for us is that what we did on PC just translated so well to PS5 that it wasn't like they were two distinct platforms. It's just our most powerful PCs were comparable to what we were seeing on PS5. So that was a great win for us.
Oh, awesome. So, you know, doing the switch to next gen, right? You obviously, as some kind of you had mentioned a little bit, you had these ambitions. You knew that this scale. Can you talk a little bit about those ambitions and really what next gen means and what that enables for you?
Yeah, and I would say the methodology at Oddworld is really driven by Lauren Lanning, and we have characters in a universe that is deep, and the narrative, kind of the interwoven nature of it, it just runs to the core of what we build and how we build it. And so it starts with the story, right? It starts with each character and what they represent in the universe. And so from there, Lauren had this grand vision, right? And he wanted to not just travel along the surface of what we did previously in like traditional 2.5D games where you're more side scrolling and that was it. He wanted to immerse the player not only in the field, but also the world itself so that you could move through it. And that presented numerous challenges, more than I could have ever imagined. But, like with any strong development team, we were able to kind of take what Lauren was envisioning and bring that to reality by using Unity and the power of the PS5.
Awesome. So you have a length of experience, right, to call upon, and Oddworld is a franchise that's seen many generations of hardware. So, what sort of challenges did you know you were going to face coming into this concept of releasing for this generation's next gen?
Well, I think with every generation, with every leap, you're always hopeful that you'll just have more CPU cycles and more GPU cycles and just more power to throw at problems, and that's definitely the case here. But with that, we're always trying to even take whatever that console or that next platform can do and then figure out how to go above and beyond and then be clever and intelligent in how we optimize and how we approach those kind of situations. So I'd say that there were a whole host of challenges in getting to the PS5 and really figuring out how to accentuate what we were trying to design for. And that was as many characters as possible on screen. Like we went from just a few in previous iterations to hundreds in this one. So that was part of the grand vision. And we never really kind of took a deep dive due diligence early on because the hardware wasn't available to see what would happen if we went to hundreds and hundreds. I mean, sometimes we have 300 to 400 NPCs on screen at one time, but to our surprise, when we flipped that switch, when we put the build out and the first one, it came back, we were as performant on PS5 as we were on PC, and that was just a huge relief for the team. And, you know, kind of a thumbs up for everybody that we could push even further, which we did to, you know, unfortunately, some of our fans, I know you're dying to play the game, and we're pushing as hard as we can to get it out, and it will be out soon. But, you know, it was part of the motivation was to take Abe to a new level and to take our universe to a new level.
And in bringing, you know, the graphic fidelity to a new level and the number of characters and this scale and this breadth of environment and stuff, what were some of the, you know, the features or the systems that you knew you were going to have to utilize to make that possible?
So we build narrative driven games, and it's all about character, and we want the player to feel as though they're that character. So for the PS5, new functionality like haptics was a huge win for us. Rumble has always been there, but haptics adds that nuance, that you know, the intangible things when you touch the controller and you can feel Abe run, you can feel him sneak, right? When he falls from great distance. I don't want to give away any spoilers, but those features were hugely beneficial for us. Just the touch and feel to connect the player to the characters in the world and what they were doing, and that action reaction meant something, right? Tactily as well as visually. It was definitely, you know, one of the big surprises for us of how much that impacted play, how much that impacted the experience, and we leaned in heavily on it.
Awesome. Given the audience of this chat here, you know, I know there's going to be some technical, you know, folks, and actually something you had alluded to previously with some of the technical aspects that you had to build to make something of this scale. If you want to talk a little tech, I mean, I'm sure the folks would love to hear it. I know you had talked a little bit about streaming technology and stuff like that.
Yeah, so a whole host of things. Unity provided a great foundation for us to build our technology base on top of. And so we've leveraged, I think for me, cinematography is hugely valuable. It's hugely been a part of my life over, you know, decades of being in the industry. And so when we started building our prototype levels, every level we had bespoke camera actions throughout the world, and that led to hundreds of cameras being implemented to tell a story. But it wasn't until Adam Myhill, I believe is his last name,
Mm-hmm.
with Cinemachine, built a piece of technology that got integrated into Unity that meant it moved the needle for us in such a massive way. It was a huge difference in what we were able to do and how productive the team could be. We went from, you know, dozens to 100 cameras in a single level down to 1 or 2 cameras, and the intelligence system allowed for the action to be framed and the story to be told frame by frame, second by second, minute by minute. You know, it just made the world of difference. And not only did it tell the story of what Abe was doing and what the players' interactions, but it intelligently expanded and opened our world so that as you traverse the space, you no longer felt like you were just on a path in 2.5D. You were now moving deep into Z, and the camera was really telling that story. But building on top of that, the NPCs and the nav mesh technology that's built into Unity, again, using that fundamental framework that we built on top of, we initially started with just a number of NPCs, a dozen or so, right, to have them follow Abe and traverse. But in previous Oddworld titles, there just wasn't the vocabulary, the capability of NPCs to be performant in the world as they followed and they connected with what Abe was doing. So if he could jump, they could jump, right? If he could hoist, they could hoist. So they were mirroring all of his actions. That was to some degree a new behavior in that we had basics in previous iterations of the Oddworld franchise, but now we've pushed it even further so that all of their actions, all of their following mechanics have expanded tremendously. And so you see that in play. And what that leads to is a deeper emotional connection, because now your followers aren't left behind somewhere off screen always, and then you have to go back and get them. They're in the middle of it with you, right? So as Abe is being threatened or under attack, they're right there by his side, right? Either fighting along with him, avoiding or hiding, or adding value to play instead of just being beast of burden as they get pulled along for the journey.
Oh, awesome, awesome. So, one thing that really stands out with Oddworld Soulstorm is just the really cool graphics, the graphical fidelity, not only in terms of just like, oh wow, that looks really good, but the unique style and the flavor of the Oddworld graphics and stuff. What were some of the things that maybe the PlayStation 5 or this next gen hardware really enabled in terms of graphics, really let you push?
Well, and this will be kind of a geeky conversation a little bit here, but when we talk about polygons, it's not so much that we're talking about just specifically the numbers and that you're on a plane and you see geometry in the world, but the scale and the depth of how many polygons we have that build out our world went up in order of magnitude. If I look at where PS5 is today versus previous iterations of like New and Tasty, our last release, we're upwards of 20 to 30 million polygons in a single scene of single view frustrum, which is massive detail, massive data, and then couple that with the enhanced memory capacities of the PS5, our texture resolutions are higher, our texel density is higher, everything just went up a notch. And what Lauren and I like to say, specifically in cinematics, which is a great example, we feel like we're near feature film quality in that what you see on screen not only tells a story, not only is emotionally compelling, but visually, it feels like it's in the realm of something that you would sit down in a movie theater and watch, right? And so that for us, for the team, was a huge accomplishment. Everyone had lower expectations of what we thought we could do initially, and we were playing it safe. But then as we started to really get comfortable with the PS5, really get comfortable with next gen, we found that we could push it further and further. And honestly, the CPU cycles, the performance was there.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, awesome. And in terms of gameplay, right? Oddworld's gameplay has this sort of what is it called, Quarmic?
Quarma, yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Quarma, yeah. So how does that play into the complexity of the mechanics now that you have so many followers and so much scale? Like, have you seen that sort of represented in the gameplay?
Absolutely. And I would bake it all down to something simple, which is it's all in a singular goal to support the narrative, right, of Abe and his journey to rescue all of his followers. And so you feel as the player, when you lose someone, right, there's a causal relation to that. And Quarma is the fundamental system of how we transfer that information. So when someone following dies, right, Abe feels that impact. You see it visually when you finish a level, right? The stats and other details will show the player how well they did, how well they achieved perfect Quarma. And that all comes back to just saving. So that fundamental simplistic narrative of just the better you save, the better you work together as a team, right? Those kind of fundamental aspects of the game enhance your Quarma ability and ultimately give you rewards at the end.
Awesome, awesome. What would you say you personally are most looking forward to about this game?
Well, two things. I think starting a little R&R after it. The team and I have been going around the clock to bring this to the fans, but it's the fan reactions. Like, we really want
Hmm.
them to enjoy it. We hope that everyone that plays it finds something unique. And when I see from past IP, even to this day, where people have tattoos on their body of Oddworld, of characters, of the universe, symbols, logos, we want to carry that lineage forward so that it's as deeply impactful for them as it was, 4 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, but it's equally as impactful today.
Awesome, awesome. Going through this process, this sort of journey in developing this game through the hardware, moving it from PC to PlayStation 5, what would you say some of the biggest lessons maybe that you learned, from this whole process?
It's to be mindful of how many things you can do, right? Because
Hmm.
the list is somewhat endless in that there's so much power available today. There's the hardware, PS5, PC, et cetera. It's so overwhelming what you can do. In
Hmm.
order to make a game with a budget and time available, you have to kind of really hone in on what is it that you need to do. And I would say the big lesson there is the team experimented and iterated tremendously through the experience. And really, Unity was a core pillar of that, and how easy it was for designers that weren't even engineers to be able to quickly mock up things and build not only a universe, but build gameplay that was easy for us to test. And what I look for often is if people are laughing, right? If people are crying, right? We're doing our job right. And so that was fundamental to our process. But with that, I would say it was just so many possibilities, so many things. So I had to corral the team into, no, we're
Hmm.
doing this. This is what we're going to ship with. This is what's going to happen, right? But ultimately, it just speaks to the future and how far we can push the next iteration of Soulstorm into future IP.
That's that concept of if you can do anything, how do you do anything, right? Or if you can do everything, how do you do anything?
That's right. And honestly, as we walk through this experience of development from day one till today, the game we started with versus the game we have today is miles apart, right? The core
Hmm.
fundamentals are there, but it really came from just the iteration from the team and what they thought was interesting and cool and different. And that's something that previously I would say I may have railed or pushed back harder on, because the hardware just wasn't as performant, as capable. And so we were more like, we can only deal with 12 guys at a time. That's it, move on. Here we were like, can we get away with 100? Yeah, you can. Can we get 200? What if we do something epic like 400 guys in a scene? Can we do that? And the answer was yes, right? And so that changed the way we thought about how we build for next gen.
Did that create a lot of excitement around the office when you're like pushing those numbers and like, oh, it still works?
I mean, Lauren's not here today, but there were times where he would walk by and see it, or he would be sitting down in a review, and he would just go, "Wow!" Like, "Wow! Look at how many guys are on screen." And early on, it was, and he always had a vision and a direction on what he wanted to do, and so we have a lot of trust between the two of us, right? I
Hmm.
respect that vision, but I would look at it and go, I don't even know what we're going to do with that many guys, right? And just taking that creative leap, and like followers, what are we going to do with 300 or 400 guys? And Lauren would say, oh, we'll find something. Trust me, like it's this has been a dream of mine to hit this level of scale for decades, right? And so just to be
Hmm.
able to watch that process happen, where he can look at the screen and say, I finally achieved what I've been trying to achieve for most of my career in building games, which is being able to hit this level of complexity, this level of scale. Those things are humbling for me, and I'm glad we were able to turn that corner and bring those things home.
Awesome. So, what advice would you have for folks who are considering developing for next gen using Unity?
Well, so the TD in me would say, always be mindful of stats and numbers, right? But
Hmm.
the the creative in me would say, don't be afraid of scale, right? Don't be afraid to go big, but most importantly, find whatever the key gameplay component, the niche of your project is that cuts through, whether it's to the fans or to publishers, financiers, you name it. But find out what that is and double down on it. And so for us, part of the magic was, really cutting through on the scale, right? Taking the perception of what people believed was an Oddworld title in the past and pushing it to a new level where, honestly, eyes opened up a bit, and they said, wow, I didn't know you could go that big, right? I didn't know this, I didn't know that. And so pushing down those barriers, that was never our initial goal to say, well, we're just trying to, um, change perceptions. But in doing so, in going big and cutting through, that definitely aided us quite a bit, because people that were previously not expecting this level of complexity were kind of amazed, right? Honestly, they were amazed when they saw it. Like, I don't know how you're doing that. I've never seen that specifically before. can we get more of that, right? And it was like those are the kind of
Hmm.
questions we were getting, and that's always a beautiful thing. So I would say the lesson, for me is always know what you're building, right? Know what you're
Hmm.
striving for and what really cuts through and resonates. And the core for me is I look for in a narrative game like ours, I look for the emotional beats of laughter, crying, those kind of things. And when we make people laugh, when we make people their jaws drop and go, "Oh my God, did you see you just got 400 guys killed?" Like that's horrible, right? So but those emotional swings and those cycles, that's what cut through for us, right? And so there's a lot of great games being built by Unity out there, developers using Unity, and I'd say whatever that magic is, right? Just focus on that as much as possible, build that
Hmm.
until you're happy, and then everything else will fall in place.
Wow, great advice. Great advice. As a game enthusiast, what are you hoping to see in next generation games? Not just obviously your game, but I just mean like across the next generation. What are you hoping for?
Oh man, and I love all different types of genres out there. I'd say I appreciate not just the graphics, but also the sticky things that make things addictive, right? And so I like to see those chemistries out there. And so when I can couple deep narrative storytelling games like ours with, compelling gameplay that goes along with it, but there's also this element of like competitive, um, you know, competition with leaderboards and other things, just getting that social aspect combined with it, that for me is a big win because I love seeing what other people are doing, right? I love seeing what my son is doing, what my kids are doing, right? When they're playing my games or others, and that competitive streak for me is significant. So I like that a lot, and I'd like to see more of that in games.
Awesome. Well, I've got one last question for you here. Do you have anything else you want to say to the folks listening?
Oh man, I can't wait to. I can't wait to. Everyone gets a chance to play Soulstorm. Release dates will be announced soon. Again, I can't give away any spoilers, but the team has worked day and night to bring you the best game that they possibly can, and I hope you all enjoy it. I hope that when you see it, you will be as humbled by what everyone has done as I have been, and it's just been a pleasure to work with this team and to bring you the best game we possibly can. So, here's to Soulstorm, and looking forward to seeing how everyone responds to it.
We're all going to be ready to start following Abe. So
Yeah, yeah. Follow me.
that's right.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time today. I really do appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting us here, and it's always an honor and a privilege. So, thank you again, and have a great day.
Awesome, awesome. And one last time, this has been Benny Terry the third, executive producer at Oddworld Inhabitants. Sorry, I tripped over that one there. And we're talking
No
about
worries.
Oddworld Soulstorm. So thank you very much again, and thank you all for listening.